an object cherished with deep affection, will become the dwelling place of a resting soul. Then what shall emerge from the discarded waste? This is a cruel world, where humanity is divided into two factions, the elite and the impoverished. They are separated by towering walls, marking the boundary between the territory of the elite and the slums of the poor. The elite look down upon the impoverished with disgust, regarding them as substandard beings. Even worse, the elite oppress the poor with arrogance and cruelty, but they do not realize that their actions will bring about disaster. This is Gachiakuta. The story begins by showing a child complaining about his torn stuffed toy. Though it was just purchased, he deeply loved this stuffed dog. Yet, his mother insists he throw it away, because it will be replaced by a new cat plushie. Eventually, the mother throws the dog away. Not far from there, a figure in covered clothing quietly observes. At the garbage dump, a waste officer catches someone scavenging inside a restricted room. The officer points a weapon and warns that only authorized personnel may enter. He views waste scavengers as lowly creatures who spread pollution and ruin the city's beauty. Immediately, the officer triggers the alarm. Desperate to avoid capture, the scavenger tries to escape, but the exit doors slam shut, surrounding and trapping him. Fortunately, the scavenger manages to survive. And surprisingly, he is our main character named Ruto. Time passes. The peaceful elite begin discussing reports of scavenging at their waste site. Their conversation halts abruptly when they see Regto, Ruto's foster father, arriving from the slums. They regard him as primitive, a savage from the lower class. The elite hope the poor will never set foot in their territory again. Meanwhile, the slum dwellers quickly hear the news about the scavenger. They know it was Ruto who trespassed into the elite's waste area, and now they fear his actions. Because of Ruto, they will be under stricter surveillance by the elite's police force. Soon after, Chiwa approaches Ruto, who is repairing something. Chiwa immediately accuses Ruto of being caught scavenging in the elite zone. She fears he'll be captured. Security there is extremely tight. Ruto replies that he feels pity for the still usable items the elite carelessly discard. Moreover, these items could be sold to earn extra income. Suddenly, 3 people arrive and begin bullying Ruto, mocking his stench of garbage. They demand Chiwa stay away from Ruto, so she doesn't stink like him. They mock Ruto's dirty gloves, claiming they'll make Chiwa's skin itch. They kick over the lantern Ruto was fixing, sneering that his repaired items will never sell. They ridicule his gloved hands. And worst of all, they forbid Chiwa from associating with Ruto, the son of a murderer. They remind everyone that the slum area was originally built to imprison criminals. They even admit to being descendants of criminals. Everyone there has worked hard to avoid crime, striving to erase that dark stigma. But all their efforts were in vain because Ruto's father killed many people. Ruto glares at them, eyes blazing with rage. Akui, seeing this, panics and quickly drags his friends away from Ruto. As they leave, they mutter that Ruto will surely become a murderer just like his father. Chiwa tries to calm Ruto, assuring him she knows he isn't a bad person. Suddenly, Ruto is startled when Chiwa praises the stuffed dog he repaired. Moved, Ruto wants to give the dog to her. But before he can, Chiwa's mother calls her home and sternly warns her never to get close to Ruto again.
早く帰るわよ。あの子と関わっちゃダメって言ったでしょ。
Ruto returns home, only to be greeted by Recto's teasing. Recto knows Ruto has feelings for Chiwa, but mocks him for being too soft and ungentlemanly. Ruto gets angry, annoyed at being spied on. Recto then advises Ruto to speak honestly and confidently to Chiwa. Knowing about the previous night's conflict, Recto urges Ruto not to risk his life for income. That responsibility belongs to Recto, but Ruto insists the scavenging isn't dangerous. Recto understands Ruto's intentions. There's no blood relation between them, so Ruto feels hesitant. He explains that his actions are his way of showing gratitude for Recto raising him since infancy, after his real parents abandoned him. Recto shifts the topic, suggesting that Chiwa might return Ruto's feelings if he's honest with her. Ruto panics at the sudden mention of Chiwa. Even more alarming, Recto notices the gunshot wound Ruto sustained the night before. He insists on treating the wound and changing the bandage on Ruto's arm, hidden beneath his glove. Recto pleads with Ruto not to return to the waste site because he doesn't want Ruto to die. To Ruto, this injury is nothing, especially compared to the pain in his hand inflicted by his own parents. Recto reminds Ruto that in this world, those who commit evil deeds are cast into the pit of hell, just like Ruto's father. He urges Ruto to protect the people who matter to him, especially in such a rotten world. Ruto recalls the blackened, painful hand he's had since childhood, and the disgusted looks from people who see it, all of which has worsened his mental state. Recto then gives Ruto an old glove that can cover his hand and ease the pain. Ruto feels he can never repay his debt to Recto. Suddenly, Recto suggests Ruto confess his feelings to Chiwa and give her the stuffed dog, warning that a beautiful girl like her won't stay unclaimed for long. Ruto angrily snaps, embarrassed by Recto's sudden meddling. The next morning arrives. Recto forces Ruto to practice a wide, genuine smile before meeting Chiwa. But Ruto can't smile naturally, his eyes burn with a fierce red glow. Still, Ruto walks through the slum, hoping to meet Chiwa, who usually stays home in the early mornings. You should know, in the slums there's a place called the Pit of Hell. More precisely, it's a massive dumping ground. But it's not just for trash. People are thrown there too, specifically those who've committed crimes, cast down as punishment for their sins. Ruto learns from others that his father was thrown into the pit of hell for committing murder. But Ruto wonders what truly happens to those cast into that abyss. Suddenly, Chiwa says that evil people are thrown into the pit of hell. Ruto jumps. Startled, Chiwa has silently appeared beside him. She's surprised to find Ruto here, a place too unpleasant to even look at. But to Ruto, all corners of the slum are the same. Chiwa explains they built the slum as a reminder to never commit evil again. That's why she never wants to see Ruto cast into the pit of hell, just for scavenging waste. Even though she knows some things must be thrown away, her warning comes from deep care for Ruto. Just like Recto's. Ruto, flustered and overthinking, assumes Chiwa's affection means romantic love. Emboldened, he gives her the stuffed dog, saying she deserves it more than he does. Chiwa beams with joy at Ruto's gift. She promises to take good care of it. Overcome with happiness, Ruto runs off to tell Recto. Suddenly, he collides with officers from the elite faction. Cold and silent, they brush past him without a word. Ruto wonders why they're in the slums, but doesn't care. His heart is too full of joy to dwell on it. But then what happens?
Tadaima!
Ruto is horrified to find Recto bleeding and dying, stabbed by a masked figure. Powerless, he cannot fight back. When he regains his senses, the masked assailant has vanished. With his last breath, Recto orders Ruto to flee, but Ruto refuses, wanting to save him. Summoning his final strength, Recto shoves Ruto away, urging him to escape and change this rotten world. Moments later, the police arrive and arrest Ruto, accusing him of Recto's murder. Ruto tries to explain the truth, but no one listens.
ちげえよ、俺じゃね
返り血がべったりついてるじゃないか。人殺し。
え。ちげえって言ってんだろ。そいつ探せ。
黙れ。
ふざけんな。
Ruto's arrest devastates Chiwa. So does the rest of the neighborhood. Soon after, Ruto is executed and thrown into the pit of hell, condemned for committing a crime on sacred ground.
よって死刑に処する。
Inside the pit, Ruto is bewildered. He didn't commit the murder. Deep down, he hopes someone will save him. His only hope, Chiwa. But what happens? Chiwa, disappointed, turns away from him and throws away the stuffed dog he gave her. All the citizens scream, demanding sinners be cast into the pit of hell. Ruto shouts back that they are all sinners, all garbage with no principles. They have eyes and ears, yet refuse to see or hear. Fueled by rage, Ruto swears he will drag them all into the pit of hell and kill them. He also vows revenge against the masked figure who watched it all. At the bottom of the dark pit, Ruto wakes up, shocked to be alive, surrounded by a stench so foul it burns his senses. He remembers what people said, that the pit of hell is a giant garbage dump, a living hell where human waste and refuse are discarded forever. It had been a long time since Ruto had always been curious about why everyone was so obsessed with sinners. But they never knew what would happen when they ended up in the depths of hell. Ruto also knew that people always wondered why criminals committed sins, despite knowing that criminals would be cast into the pits of hell. So then, who is the real sinner here? Suddenly, a giant monster emerged, formed from a massive pile of trash. Refusing to die, Ruto desperately tried to escape. Agilely, Ruto dodged every attack from the garbage monster, until he tripped and fell onto a human skull. Enraged, Ruto screamed at those who had cast him into this hellhole. Then, an avalanche occurred, causing Ruto to fall and collapse. Ruto could no longer bear the polluted air, making him vomit blood. He assumed he must escape to a safer place immediately. But then he reconsidered. Was there even a safe place in this world full of garbage heaps? As he lay dying, Ruto briefly remembered Recto's death. This triggered the soul that resided within his glove. Ruto made a firm resolve he had to survive. because he still had unfinished business to attend to.
俺にはまだハリーレグトを殺したクソ野郎死ぬのはお預けだぶっ飛ばせ
Elsewhere, a mysterious figure with an umbrella was silently observing Ruto, and in their eyes, Ruto was a special human. Meanwhile, Ruto, unwilling to die, fought fiercely and skillfully against the trash monsters. Yet Ruto began to weaken under the stench of the foul air. If this continued, his lungs would become poisoned, and he would die. Suddenly, his glove emitted a flash of red aura, granting him immense power. He instantly destroyed 2 monsters in a single blow, but the trash monster reappeared to bigger and stronger than before. Alarmed, Ruto ran for his life, knowing the monster would crush him. Fortunately, Ruto survived. But when he opened his eyes, he was shocked to see the umbrella-wielding figure standing before him. Suddenly, the person attacked Ruto, then handed him a high-grade mask so he could breathe cleanly. Ruto immediately demanded answers about this person and the monsters rising from the trash piles. But the stranger gestured for him to stay silent. Ruto kept talking, insisting on an explanation, until the stranger finally snapped, yelling at Ruto. Right now, you're on the surface of the underworld. All this trash is dumped from the upper world. Because you kept screaming, the monsters became aware of our presence. The stranger explained that the waste monsters were formed from trash. No matter how many times they were defeated with ordinary weapons, they would simply regenerate, and they reacted violently to sounds made by humans. He added that the trash monsters in this area were particularly special. That's why he avoided doing anything conspicuous and hated loud noises. Then, the stranger summoned a yellow aura from his umbrella, enveloping his body. His umbrella transformed into a special weapon capable of destroying monsters permanently, preventing them from ever reforming. In the blink of an eye, he obliterated the surrounding monsters with swift umbrella techniques. Ruto was utterly amazed. He even believed the umbrella must be some kind of advanced underworld technology. Meanwhile, the king of trash monsters prepared to attack once more. With his magical umbrella, the stranger deflected and struck the monster. Within seconds, the waste monster was shattered into pieces. Then, he reverted the umbrella back to its original form. Removing his mask, he introduced himself as Engine, the cleaner. Soon after, Ruto collapsed unconscious, slipping into memories of his childhood with Regto. In the memory, Ruto returned home with dirty clothes after his friend pushed him. They laughed at him, mocking his belief that all objects are alive. Ruto insisted this was something Regto had taught him, that if an object is cared for long enough, a soul will eventually dwell within it. And so, Ruto believed everything had a soul. Regto then clarified it was just a fairy tale, a story meant to encourage people to take care of their belongings. Yet, Regto admitted he believed his towel had a soul, because it could clean Ruto. Ruto pointed at every object in the room, declaring they all had souls. Even his glove, he said, would one day house a soul if properly cared for. Shortly after, Ruto awoke, his body chained. Furious, he demanded Engine release him, insisting he return to the upper world immediately. Engine remained silent. It was impossible. The upper world was constantly moving, and right now, Ruto couldn't go back. But Ruto refused to accept this. He was certain Anjin knew something, a way to return to the upper world. So Ruto demanded Anjin explain everything, the underworld, the waste monsters, and his own powers. Ruto was determined to learn it all, so he could use it to punish the people of the upper world. And he wouldn't stop until every question was answered. Anjin, growing frustrated, threw down his helmet, vowing to teach Ruto everything. Then he dragged Ruto away to a trash transport station and left him there. Soon, a group of people approached Ruto. They were shocked to see someone wearing upperworld clothing, so different from theirs. They were ecstatic upon learning Ruto had fallen from the upper world and grew increasingly curious about him. They found it strange that Ruto was still alive. Usually, they only found corpses of upperworlders who had fallen. A mustached man tightened the chains on Ruto's body, leading Ruto to believe the man was kinder than Anjin. But in truth, they still handcuffed Ruto inside a truck to prevent escape, proving they were even more inhumane than Anjin. They knew the body of an upperworlder was extremely valuable. Each body part could be sold for a high price, especially since Ruto was still intact. Even upperworld clothing was expensive and highly sought after. Yet, they deeply hated the upperworlders who kept dumping trash into their world. This trash created toxic air pollution and gave birth to monsters. It caused humans to be killed by monsters or crushed by falling debris, even forcing people to lose their homes. They imagined if Ruto's identity were revealed to the lower world's population, he would be tortured and executed. So instead, they decided to sell him and watch his suffering. But for now, they didn't want Ruto looking weak. So they forced him to eat lower world food, tasteless, garbage-like slop that no upperworlder would ever touch. The mustached man cruelly shoved slimy organic waste like a snail into Ruto's mouth. Suddenly, Ruto bit off 2 of the man's fingers, leaving only bones. Enraged, Ruto devoured all the food in front of him, cursing both the upper world and the lower world, both equally cruel and evil. Ruto unleashed all his fury. His glove erupted with a red energy aura, shattering the chains. From afar, Anjin smiled, seeing the red aura emanating from Ruto. He was certain the glove housed a soul that lent its power to Ruto. Anjin saw Ruto as a rare giver, a special being capable of granting life to objects and drawing out their power. The injured mustached man, still in pain, ordered the others to kill Ruto, to show no mercy to anyone from the upper world. Ruto went on a rampage. Every object he touched turned into a weapon. One by one, his attackers were beaten and left unconscious. But just as Ruto was about to kill the mustached man, Anjin grabbed his hand, stopping him. Ruto calmed down, his rage subsiding, and all the floating objects around him fell to the ground. Ruto was stunned by what had just happened, then remembered Regto's words about his glove. Anjin assumed Ruto's body couldn't yet handle such immense power. He admitted he had deliberately abandoned Ruto to test his strength. Then Anjin promised to teach Ruto everything about the underworld and the power he had unleashed. Finally, Anjin extended an invitation. Join me, become a cleaner.
見極めさせてもらったんだ。掃除屋に入れ。
嫌だ。